Esa no es mi hija. Resonaron las palabras como cristales quebrándose sobre el suelo de mármol. El silencio que siguió fue tan denso que podría cortarse con un cuchillo. En la mansión más elegante de Buenos Aires, entre el eco de esa declaración cruel, una joven de 26 años sintió cómo se desmoronaba el mundo que había construido durante años. Bienvenido de nuevo. Cuéntame desde qué ciudad me estás viendo y qué hora es allá. Ahora, escucha esta historia. Valentina Rojas había aprendido a caminar en silencio por los pasillos de mármol travertino de la mansión Alarcón. Sus pasos, siempre medidos, nunca perturbaban la perfecta armonía de aquel hogar que olía a cera de abejas y rosas frescas. Cada mañana, a las 6:15, bajaba por la escalera principal con su vestido de algodón almidonado, el cabello recogido en un moño sencillo, las manos siempre limpias y las uñas sin esmalte. Así había sido educada, invisible hasta que fuera necesaria, presente solo cuando la llamaran. La luz dorada del amanecer porteño se filtraba a través de los ventanales franceses, creando patrones geométricos sobre los tapices persas que cubrían el suelo de la biblioteca. Era su lugar favorito, su refugio. Entre esos libros encuadernados en cuero y el aroma del papel envejecido, Valentina había aprendido historia, literatura, matemáticas y idiomas, pero nunca había aprendido a sentirse en casa. «Buenos días, papá», susurraba cada mañana cuando Esteban Alarcón bajaba a desayunar. Él la miraba por encima de su periódico financiero, asentía con la cabeza, y seguía leyendo sin pronunciar palabra. Ni buenos días, ni cómo dormiste, ni siquiera una sonrisa. Solo ese asentimiento frío que la hacía sentir como un mueble más del comedor. Isabela, su madre adoptiva, compensaba el silencio de Esteban con caricias en el cabello y besos en la frente. «Mi niña hermosa», le decía mientras le servía medialunas tibias con dulce de leche. Pero Valentina percibía algo más en esos gestos. Una disculpa constante, como si Isabela pidiera perdón por algo que no podía controlar. ¿Por qué su padre la miraba con esa distancia? ¿Por qué cuando la presentaba en sociedad, su voz sonaba mecánica, desprovista de orgullo paternal? Sofía, su media hermana, entraba al comedor como una tormenta perfumada, rubia, de ojos verdes como su padre, vestía siempre con la elegancia despreocupada de quien nunca ha dudado de su lugar en el mundo. «Hola, Valentinita», le decía con una sonrisa que no llegaba a sus ojos, y luego, dirigiéndose a Esteban: «Papá, ¿me das dinero para ir de compras con las chicas? Necesito algo espectacular para la fiesta de fin de año». La fiesta. Llevaban 3 semanas hablando de la fiesta anual de los Alarcón, el evento social más importante del año en Buenos Aires. Empresarios, políticos, artistas, toda la élite porteña se reuniría en el jardín de la mansión para celebrar otra temporada exitosa del imperio empresarial de Esteban. Este año sería especial. Valentina sería presentada oficialmente como la heredera de la familia. «Es tu momento, mi amor», le había dicho Isabela mientras revisaban los vestidos en el armario. «Papá finalmente te va a reconocer como te mereces». Pero en los ojos de Isabela había algo que no cuadraba con sus palabras optimistas. Una preocupación, una sombra de duda que se escondía tras su sonrisa maternal. Valentina se probaba vestido tras vestido, cada uno más elegante que el anterior, pero ninguno lograba ocultar la sensación de vacío que llevaba en el pecho. En el espejo de su habitación, veía a una joven que había crecido en el lujo pero que se sentía como una extraña en su propia casa. Sus ojos oscuros, tan diferentes a los verdes de Sofía y Esteban, la miraban con una pregunta constante: ¿dónde pertenezco realmente? Una tarde, mientras buscaba un libro de poesía en la biblioteca, sus dedos se toparon con un volumen que sobresalía ligeramente de los demás. Al intentar acomodarlo, se dio cuenta de que no era un libro, sino un diario forrado en cuero café, con las esquinas gastadas por el tiempo. Las páginas amarillentas desprendían ese olor característico del papel viejo, mezclado con un perfume floral que le resultaba familiar pero que no lograba identificar. 15 de abril de 1995, leyó en la primera página. «Hoy conocí a un hombre que me cambió la vida. Esteban es todo lo que siempre soñé, inteligente, ambicioso, apasionado, pero está casado. Sé que no debería sentir esto, pero mi corazón no entiende de convencionalismos sociales». Las manos de Valentina temblaron. El diario no estaba firmado, pero algo en su interior le decía que esas palabras tenían que ver con ella, con su historia, con esa sensación constante de no encajar completamente en la familia Alarcón. Siguió leyendo, página tras página, descubriendo una historia de amor secreto que se extendía por meses. When Matías proposed a Arto on a quiet Sunday morning in Rosa's garden, surrounded by Carmen's favorite jasmine flowers, Valentina said yes, not because she needed rescuing, but because she wanted to share her complete life with someone who saw all of her, the pain and the joy, the insecurity and the strength, and loved her entirely. The wedding was small but perfect, held in the courtyard of La Fundación. It was attended by the people who mattered. Rosa, Isabella, Sofía, quien had slowly rebuilt her relationship with Valentina, several colleagues from work, and dozens of children and families they had helped over the years. The decoration was simple but heartfelt: white flowers from Rosa's garden, photographs Matias had taken of all the people they loved, and a small memorial corner with Carmen's photo and her favorite poem. Isabella had come to the wedding wearing a simple blue dress, her eyes red but her smile genuine. She hugged Valentina for a long time antes de la ceremony. "Your mother would be so proud," she whispered. "Both of your mothers." Even more surprising had been the arrival of Dr. Mendoza, now in his 70s but still carrying himself with dignity. He approached Valentina during la reception and handed her another envelope. "This one is truly the last letter," he said gently. "Carmen wrote it the day before she died. I wasn't sure if you were ready para it before, pero today I think you are." Valentina opened the letter with Matias beside her, their friends and family chatting and laughing alrededor de them. "Mi querida Valentina," it began. "If you're reading this, it means you've grown up to be the woman I always knew you could be. I hope you remember que you are worthy of love not because of what you do or where you come from, pero simply porque de who you are. I hope you've learned to trust your heart, to stand up for yourself, y to choose love over fear in all its forms." The letter continued with advice, hopes and dreams that Carmen had for her daughter, dreams that, remarkably, Valentina had managed to fulfill not by following a prescribed path, but by listening to her own inner compass. The last paragraph made her cry. "If your father ever finds the courage to acknowledge you, I hope you can forgive him, not porque he deserves it, pero porque forgiveness will free you to love more deeply. And if he never does find that courage, I hope you remember que his limitations have nothing to do with your worth. You are my daughter, mi amor, and that is suficiente." 6 months after la boda, Valentina received an unexpected phone call. It was Sofía, her voice tight with emotion. "Valentina," said quickly, "I need to tell you something. About Papa. What happened? He's sick, really sick. Cancer. The doctors say, they say he doesn't have much time." Valentina felt a complex mix of emotions: sadness, anger, concern, and something that might have been relief. Que finally, después de todos estos años, there might be closure. "Does he want to see me?" "He's been asking for you," admitted Sofía. "But he's scared. Scared que you won't come. Scared que you will come. He knows he doesn't have the right to ask anything de ti, after what he did." Valentina talked it over with Matias and Rosa that night. Both encouraged her to follow her heart, whatever that meant. 3 days later, she found herself back in el hospital privado, donde la élite de Buenos Aires went for medical care. The building was as elegant as she remembered from her childhood visits with Isabella, but now she saw it differently. The marble floors and crystal chandeliers seemed cold, empty gestures at comfort in the face of real human suffering. Esteban's room was in the private wing, overlooking the city skyline. When she entered, she barely recognized the man lying in la hospital bed. He had lost weight, his hair had gone completely gray, his once powerful presence had diminished to something fragile, almost childlike. He looked up cuando she entered. His eyes, those green eyes that she now knew were partly hers too, filled with tears. "Valentina," he whispered. "You came." "I came," she confirmed, pulling a chair closer to his bed. "How are you feeling?" Like someone quien has spent his whole life running away from la truth, he has finally run out of places to hide. They talked for hours. Esteban told her about his regrets, not just about Carmen and their relationship, but about the kind of father he had been to both of his daughters. He talked about his fear of vulnerability, his obsession with social status, his belief que love had to be earned through perfection rather than given freely. "I was so afraid," he admitted, que admitting la truth about Carmen would make people think less de me. "I was so concerned with what strangers thought, que I forgot to care about what tú thought, about what you needed. I needed a father," said Valentina simply. "Not a perfect one, just an honest one. Can you forgive me?" Valentina considered la cuestión carefully. "I already forgave you," she said finally. "But it doesn't mean que what happened didn't hurt. It doesn't mean que we can have una normal father-daughter relationship now. Too much time has passed." "I know," he said quietly. "But maybe we can have some kind of relationship, whatever you're comfortable with." They met regularly during his final months, not as father and daughter trying to make up for lost time, pero as two adults trying to understand each other, y find some peace. Valentina told him about her work, about her marriage, about the life she had built. He shared stories about her mother que no one else had ever told her, memories que helped complete the picture of who Carmen had been. In his final weeks, cuando the pain medication made him more honest than he had ever been, he told her something que surprised her. "You know what makes me most proud?" he said mientras she adjusted his pillows una afternoon. "What?" "Que despite everything I did wrong, You became exactly the person you were meant to be. You're kind, pero strong, generous, pero no naive. You help people, pero you don't let them take advantage de ti. You're your mother's daughter, sí, pero you're also entirely yourself. The day before he died, Esteban asked Valentina to bring him something from his home office, a small wooden box that had been locked away in his desk drawer for years. Inside, she found letters Carmen had written to him, photographs of the three of them when Valentina was a baby, and a single baby booty, tiny pink hand-knitted. Your mother made those, he said, cuando she returned to La Hospital. She was always knitting something. She said she wanted to make sure you came into the world surrounded por things made with love. Why did you keep these hidden? Because they hurt too much to look at, he admitted. Every time I saw them, I remembered not just Carmen, pero who I used to be, cuando I was with her. A better version than myself que I was too coward to fight for. That night, Esteban Alarcón died peacefully in his sleep. Valentina was not there cuando it happened. She was at home with Matías, reviewing applications para the next scholarship cycle at La Fundación, pero she felt oddly at peace cuando Sofía called with the news. The funeral was elaborate, attended por hundreds the people que had known Esteban in his professional life. Valentina sat with Sofía and Isabela in the front row, accepting condolences from family friends, business associates y political figures. Many people approached her with surprise. They had not known que Esteban had 2 daughters. He talked about you a lot in his final months, one elderly businessman told her. He was very proud of the work you're doing con los niños. At the cemetery, después de most of the crowd had dispersed, Valentina stayed behind with la immediate family. She placed a single white rose on the casket, not porque she had loved him, como she had once desperately wanted to, pero porque she had found a way to forgive him. Y forgiveness, she had learned, was its own form de love. 1 year later, Valentina received una call que changed everything. It was from a lawyer representing Esteban's estate. Mrs. Valentina Rojas Garcia, said the lawyer formally. I need to schedule una meeting with you regarding your father's will. I think there's been a mistake, said Valentina. Esteban Alarcón made it very clear que didn't consider me his daughter. Any inheritance would go to Sofía. I'm afraid that's not el caso, replied the lawyer. Could you come to our office tomorrow morning? The lawyer's office was in one of those intimidating downtown buildings where most powerful families de Buenos Aires handled their affairs. Sofía was already there cuando Valentina arrived, looking as confused as she felt. Ladies, began the lawyer, your father made some significant changes to his will durante his final months. Changes que requested be kept confidential until after his death. He opened a thick folder and began reading. To Sofía Alarcón, my daughter whom I raised y loved desde her birth. I leave the family home, my shares in Alarcón Enterprises, y the responsibility the continuing the business legacy que has defined our family para generations. Sofía exhaled with relief. This was what she had expected. To Valentina Rojas, my daughter whom I failed pero never stopped loving, I leave the following. First, an educational trust fund de $5 million, to be used exclusively para expanding la work de Fundación Esperanza y creating new programs para children in need. Second, la complete contents de mi private library, including all of Carmen Rojas' personal effects que I have preserved all these years. Y third, this letter. The lawyer handed Valentina an envelope with her name written in Esteban's shaky handwriting. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Mi querida Valentina, it began. For the time you read this, I will be gone, y hopefully you will remember our final conversations with some warmth rather than only pain. I am leaving you estas gifts not porque I think money can repair the damage I caused, pero porque I want your mother's legacy of helping others to continue through you. In my library you will find que I never threw away anything que belonged to Carmen. Her books, her papers, even drafts, the article she was writing about educational policy. I kept them as a shrine to my guilt, pero now I hope they can become a foundation para your future. I know que during our talks, you wondering why I finally changed. La answer is simple, watching you build una life based on authenticity. Y service instead of appearance, y status made me realize what I had lost when I chose fear over love all those años ago. You became the person I always had the potential to be but never had la courage to become. Take Carmen's work y finish it. Take her dreams y make them real. Take her love y pass it forward to todos los niños que need someone to believe in them. Y please, por favor, remember, que being my daughter, whether I acknowledged it publicly or not, was never about what you owed me. It was about what I owed you, respect, love y la truth. I failed at all three during your childhood, pero I hope que in my final months, I was able to offer you at least pieces de what you deserved all along. Con amor y profunda admiración por the woman you became despite my failures. Tu padre. Valentina folded la letter carefully, tears streaming down her cheeks. Beside her, Sofía reached over and took her hand. I'm glad he did this, Sofía said quietly. It's what should have happened all along. 6 months later, The Carmen Rojas Educational Initiative was launched with a ceremony at la Universidad de Buenos Aires. Using Esteban's bequest, Valentina had created a comprehensive program, scholarships para students from low-income families, mentoring programs para at-risk youth, teacher training in underserved communities, y research projects examining educational inequality. The ceremony was attended por hundreds de people, educators, students, community leaders, y families who had been helped por la iniciative. Dr. Mendoza, now one of the program's chief advisors, gave the opening remarks. Carmen Rojas believed que education was not a privilege para the wealthy, but a right para everyone. He said, "Today her daughter ensures que belief becomes reality para thousands of children." Isabela, quien had become one of the initiative's most dedicated volunteers, introduced Valentina with words que made her cry. "I have been blessed to call two exceptional women my daughter," she said, looking at both Valentina and Sofia in la front row. "Today we celebrate not just the launch de esta program, pero la triumph de love over fear, de authenticity over appearance, de service over self." When it was Valentina's turn to speak, she looked out at la audience y saw something remarkable. People from every level de Argentina society sitting together, united por their commitment to helping children succeed regardless of their economic background. Rich and poor, business leaders y community activists, families from Puerto Madero y families from Las Villas, all brought together por Carmen's dream. "My mother Carmen wrote in her journal," Valentina began, "que the most important thing in la vida was not what position you held, pero how many people you helped reach their position. 27 years después de her death, we're here to ensure que her vision becomes reality para every child in this city." She talked about her own journey, the pain de growing up feeling unwanted, la discovery de her true identity, the choice to build una life based on service rather than status. "I learned," she concluded, "que family is not about blood or money or social position. Family is about showing up para each other, about creating space where everyone can become their best self, about passing love forward to the next generation. That's what education does, y that's what we're going to do." After the ceremony, mientras people mingled y shared stories, Matías approached with his camera y a mischievous smile. "I have una surprise para ti," he said, leading her to a quiet corner. He showed her a photograph he had taken during her speech. Valentina at the podium, her hands expressive, her face glowing with passion y purpose. But what made the photo special was what he had captured in the background. Hundreds of faces, all looking at her with attention, respect y hope. "This is how the world sees you now," he said gently. "Not as someone seeking approval, pero as someone giving others permission to dream." That evening, back in Rosa's garden, donde jasmine flowers perfumed the warm summer air, Valentina sat with her family. Not the family she had been born into, pero the family she had chosen, y quien had chosen her. Rosa was telling stories about their grandmother. Isabela was planning the next volunteer project. Sofia was sharing photos de her new boyfriend, a teacher, to her father's posthumous surprise, y Matías was organizing his photo files. As the stars began appearing in el Buenos Aires sky, Valentina thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. At the mansion donde she had learned to walk silently through marble halls para the small garden donde her voice was always welcome. Desde the desperate need for approval para the peaceful confidence de knowing herself. Desde the loneliness de being the unwanted daughter para the joy de being surrounded por chosen family. "¿En qué piensas?" asked Matías, settling beside her on the garden bench. "En lo extraño que es la vida," she replied. "All those years, I thought my story was about trying to earn love from people who weren't capable de giving it. But it turns out my story was actually about learning to recognize love cuando it was right in front de me, y learning to give it freely to people que needed it. Y now? Now I know que la most important thing I inherited from Carmen wasn't money or social position or even educational credentials. It was her belief que every person has el derecho to be loved exactly como they are, y la responsibility to create space donde others can discover that truth too." Later that night, después de everyone had gone to their homes, Valentina sat at her small writing desk with a pen y paper. For the first time since finding Carmen's diary all those years ago, she felt ready to write her own story. "Today," she began, "I realized que my life has been divided into two parts. The first 26 years, cuando I believed que love was something I had to earn, y everything afterwards cuando I discovered que love is something I was born deserving. This is not a story sobre revenge against people who hurt me, or about proving me worth to those quien doubted it. This is a story sobre learning to distinguish between people quien love you because de condición or reasons, y people quien love you porque you exist. It's about understanding que true family, whether biological or chosen, is defined por mutual respect, unconditional support, y shared values. Most importantly, this is a story sobre discovering que your identity doesn't come from other people's opinions de ti, pero from your own understanding de your values, your dreams, y your capacity para love. If you're reading this because you too have felt unloved, unwanted, or like you don't belong anywhere, please know,
Your worth was never dependía upon anyone else's ability to see it. Your value was never condicional upon anyone else's approval. You deserve love, respect, y belonging, no porque of anything you do, pero simply porque you are. Y if you have been blessed to find that love y belonging, remember que it comes with responsibility, to create space, donde others can discover their own worth, to extend kindness to those quien are still searching para their place en el world, y to build communities donde everyone's authentic self is not just accepted, pero celebrated. Para Carmen, quien taught me que love transcends death. Para Rosa, quien showed me que family extends beyond blood. Para Isabella, quien proved que motherhood is about choice, no biology. Para Matías, quien sees me exactly como I am, y loves me completely. Para Sofía, quien taught me que relationships can grow y heal when built on authenticity. Para todos los children whose dreams we support through la Fundación, porque their hope reminds me daily why this work matters. Y finally, para Esteban, quien taught me the most valuable lesson of all, que other people's limitations have nothing to do with your possibilities. Sometimes la greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly quien you don't want to become. As she finished writing, Valentina looked up at la photograph on her desk. It was the formal family portrait from the night of la fiesta, but now she saw it differently. La young woman in that photo looked beautiful pero hollow, forced smile, hiding years de pain y desperation. She barely recognized that person, the woman she had become, working at a job she loved, married to someone quien respected her completely, surrounded por chosen family, quien celebrated her authenticity, was someone she could never have imagined, stanoving during those years of searching for acceptance from people who would never give it.
Pro years later at opening ceremony para si finto año la Carmen Rojas Summer Institute para Young Leaders, Valentina stood before an audience de 500 young people from across Latin America, students, activists, educators, y community organizers, all united por their commitment to social justice y educational equity. The institute had grown beyond her wildest dreams. What had started as a local scholarship program was now an international initiative, bringing together promising young leaders para intensive training and education policy, community organizing y social entrepreneurship. Fellows de the program were now working in dozens de countries, starting schools in rural Guatemala, developing literacy programs en favelas brasileñas, y advocating para educational reform in governments across el continent. Mi mother Carmen once wrote, Valentina told la audience que la most powerful force in el world is no money o posición o political influence. The most powerful force is una person quien knows their worth y uses the knowledge para help others discover their own worth too. In la audience, Ona could see faces que reflected her own journey. Young people desde privileged backgrounds quien were learning to use their advantages para serve others, students desde poverty, quien were discovering que their circumstances were not their limitations, educators quien were finding new ways para reach every child, y activists quien were channeling their own experiences de marginalization into fuel de systemic change. Your value, she continued, was never determined by otras people's opinions de ti. Your potential was never limited por other people's expectations. Your ability para create change in el world was never conditional upon anyone else's approval. But remember también, with that power comes responsibility. When you discover your own worth, use it para create space donde others can discover theirs. When you find your voice, use it para amplify voices que have been silenced. When you are finally seen y valued para quien you really are, work para create a world donde everyone puede sentirse seen y valued. After la ceremony, mientras fellows mingled over dinner y shared stories desde their različne countries, Dr. Mendoza, now in his 80s but still the Institute's most passionate advocate, approached Valentina with something special. I have one more surprise для you, he said, handing her a small package wrapped for brown paper. Inside was a book, old, well-worn, with Carmen's name embossed for gold letters, now the cover, Educational Equity, a Blueprint via Democracy, by Dr. Carmen Rojas. She finished it, whispered Valentina, tears streaming down her face. She finished it, 3 weeks before she died, confirmed Dr. Mendoza. I've been working as publishers, via years para get it released. The university press agreed para publish it, if we agreed para sozdać a companion volume, modern applications de her ideas. Would you be willing para write that companion volume? That night, alone for her study at home, Valentina opened her mother's book the first time. The dedication made her sob. Para mi daughter Valentina, may you always remember que you were born deserving love, respect, y every opportunity para dream bolshimi dreams. Use your education, nie только para better your own life, no para create possibilities для others. Remember que true uspech comes not at what you achieve для yourself, but at how many people you pomakichi achieve their own dreams. Con todo mi amor mama. The book was brilliant, a comprehensive analysis de educational, inequality argentina, practical recommendations для policy changes,
teaching strategies, y community interventions. Reading it, Valentina could hear her mother's voice, the very page, could see her passion, the justice, her deep understanding, the challenges facing poor children, y her unwavering belief que education could be the equalizer, the society divided per wealthy class. But more than that, she could see how her own works, la Fundación y la Institut, had been unconsciously sledoya the roadmap Carmen had laid out 30 years earlier. Without knowing it, Valentina had been continuing her mother's rabota, fulfilling her dreams, y making real the vision que Carmen had never lived, y así implemented. 2 years later, at the launch event, both books, mine's Carmen's newly published work, y Valentina's companion volume, Educational Equity Today, From Theory para Practice, the audience included, ni just academics y educators, no also government ministers, international development workers, y community leaders, at dozens de countries. The event was held with the main auditorium de la Universidad de Buenos Aires, the same auditorium where Carmen had once presented her research. As Valentina looked out at the crowd, she saw not just an audience, no a movement, hundreds de people committed to changing the world one child at a time.
My mother believed, Valentina says with her remarks, que every child's potential is a national treasure. She believed que a country que fails to educate all its children is a country que wastes its greatest resource. Y she believed que education equity is not just a moral imperative, no an economic necessity. Tonight we not only celebrate the publication de these books, no ale 200 de programs, policies, y initiatives que their ideas have inspired. From rural schools Peru, the teacher training has improved dramatically, the scholarship programs Mexico que have sent thousands de indigenico students to a university, the policy reforms of Colombia que have increased educational funding to poor communities. Carmen's ideas are становing reality. But she also made sure to remember que the ideas alone weren't enough. Books don't change the world, she continued. People change the world. People can read books like these, y then roll up their sleeves y do the hard work, the implementing the ideas. People can take these theories, y turn them into after-school programs, scholarship funds, teacher training initiatives, y policy reforms. Each de you this audience tonight has the opportunity para be parte de this movement. You can choose to see educational inequality as someone else's problem, or you can choose to see it as your responsibility para solve. After the event, as people mingled and discussed how to apply the book's ideas with their own contexts, Isabel approached Valentina's tears for her eyes. Your mother would be tak proud, she said, embracing her. Not just because they're your professional success, not because they're the woman you've become, generous, no strong, idealistic, no practical, ambitious, no humble. I learned that the best mothers, replied Valentina, looking around at the gathered crowd, also from the worst father. No, that's a different lesson. They both laughed, but then Isabella became serious. I want you to know something, she said. Despite everything que happens, Esteban, despite all the pain y confusion, I don't regret a single moment de raising you. You brought joy para my life for ways I never expected. You taught me que love is not about biology, no about choice. Every day I chose to love you, y every day that choice made me a better person. You taught me, replied Valentina, que there are people of the world quien will love you simply because you need this love, ni because you are perfect. You taught me, что real mothers are the ones quien show up Jane after Jane, God after God, regardless of their biological connection. At the end of the evening, as Valentina y Matías drove home through the streets de Buenos Aires, she reflected on the journey que had brought her para this moment. From a confused young woman desperately seeking approval, Ana had become a confident adult dedicating her life para helping others discover their own worth. Do you ever wonder, asked Matías, what would have happened if Esteban had acknowledged you at the beginning? I used to wonder que all the time, replied Valentina. But now I think I might not have become the person I am today. My pain taught me empathy. My rejection taught me para recognize people quien truly want me around. My struggle taught me to value authenticity, not popularity. With some weird way, Esteban's failures made me stronger. But also Isabella's love, Rosa's wisdom, Carmen's example. Exactly. The pain wasn't the most important part de my story. The love was. But I needed la experience, both la become quien I am now. At 35, Valentina had built a life que would have been unimaginable. La the young woman desperately seeking her father's approval, with that mansion garden years before. The Carmen Rojas Educational Initiative now operated programs with 12 countries. The Summer Institute had graduated over 3,000 young leaders. Her books were being used for university courses and professional development programs across Latin America. But more importantly, she had created actual family, not just Siki Matias, Rosa, Isabella, and now close Sofia. Knows every child whose education they had made possible, every teacher see it or trained, every policymaker see it influenced.
para prioritize equity, not efficiency. Perhaps most importantly, Ana had learned the difference между being wanted y being truly valued. The desperate need for approval que had defined her youth had been replaced por the quiet confidence que comes out knowing your worth is internal, ni external. One afternoon, while reviewing applications to the Institute's leadership program, Valentina came across an essay que stopped her words tracks. It was desde a 60-year-old girl Paludar, Colombia, whose mother had died когда she was young, whose father had abandoned the family, y que had been raised por an aunt que loved her fiercely but struggled economically. I grew up believing que I was unwanted, the girl had written.
My father left because he see I wasn't his responsibility. My classmates made fun de me because I wore the same clothes every Jane. Teachers gave up on me because they assumed children desde families like mine couldn't succeed academically. But last Goda, I met a teacher qui had participated one desde Carmen Rojas teacher training programs. She looked at me, saw possibilities which others had seen problems. She helped me understand que my circumstances were not my constraints. She showed me que he scholarships для students like me, mentoring programs для first-generation college students, y a whole community de people dedicated для helping kids who come at backgrounds like mine. No, I want to become an educator myself. I want to work with children qui have been told they are not smart enough, no important enough, ni worthy enough para dream big dreams. I want to create classrooms где every child knows que their background is not their limitation, their family's poverty is not their fault, ich potencial is not determined por other people's expectations de them. I know this sounds idealistic, pero I believe education can change everything. If one teacher could see my potential когда everyone else saw my problems, imagine what could happen if we had thousands of teachers trained para see every child's those eyes. Valentina accepted the girl into the program immediately y made a mental note to follow her progress closely. Por the end of the application review process, she had selected 200 young people desde across Latin America to participate for the upcoming Summer Institute. Reading all those essays, Valentina was struck by how many young people were struggling with the same issues Ana had faced, feeling unwanted, seeking approval of people unable to give it, believing their worth was conditional upon others' acceptance. But Ana was also struck by how many of them were determined to break those cycles, para create better opportunities for the next generation. They remind me de myself at their age, Ana told Matias that evening, but also better versions de myself. They've figured out что I took decades to learn. What's que? That you don't have to waste time trying to get love at people qui aren't capable de giving it. You can go directly to finding people qui will love y support the authentic you. The 10-year anniversary celebration de the Carmen Rojas Educational Initiative was held with the Estadio Luna Park of Buenos Aires, a venue large enough to the thousands de people qui had been affected por the program over the década. Students qui had received scholarships, teachers qui had been trained for new methodologies, policymakers qui had implemented educational reforms, y community leaders qui had started local programs filled the venue. The evening began with a documentary about the program's impact, featuring interviews with beneficiaries out around Latin America. A former street child of Guatemala qui was new a doctor. A young woman of rural Peru qui had become her community's first lawyer. A teacher of Colombia qui had started literacy programs for 3 indigenous communities. A policymaker of Argentina qui had championed a national scholarship program to low-income students. But the most moving part of the documentary was an interview with Isabella, now for her 70s. People often ask me if I regret anything about how we raised Valentina. Ana said, her voice still strong despite her age. My answer is always the same. I regret que she had de suffer through feeling unwanted, de so many years. But I don't regret a single day de loving her, porque watching her transform that pain into purpose has been one of the greatest privileges de my life. When it was Valentina's turn to speak, she looked out at the audience and could barely believe what she saw. Thousands de faces, from children to seniors, representing every economic level y geographic region, de Latin America, all united por their commitment to educational equity. 10 years ago, she began, we started with a simple idea. Every child deserves access to quality education, regardless de their family's income or social status. Tonight we celebrate, ni just what we've accomplished, no whom we've become for the process. We've become a movement, de people qui believe que a child's zip code should ni determine their opportunities. We've become a community de educators qui see potential, the others see problems. We've become advocates qui understand que educational equity is ni just about promulgaishi individual children, no about creating the foundation para a more just society. She paused to look out at the audience, y her eyes fell a la familiar face for the front row, the young woman, a Colombia whom she had selected to the Summer Institute 3 years earlier. Now graduated from university, y working as a teacher at her home community, Ana was sitting a group de her former students, children she had helped develop college aspirations despite coming out families who no one had ever attended university. But most importantly, continued Valentina, we've become proof que love y support can heal the deepest wounds y transform the greatest challenges into the most meaningful purposes. Every scholarship recipient, this audience tonight is evidence que belonging is not about being born into the right family, but about finding y creating communities donde everyone's authentic self is valued. The evening concluded with the announcement de a new phase de the initiative, a partnership UNICEF to expand their programs throughout Latin America, y the establishment de the Carmen Rojas Global Institute para Educational Equity, would bring their model de countries of Africa y Asia. As the celebration wound down y people began to leave, Valentina found herself surrounded by 3 generations de her chosen family. Rosa, now over her 80s but still sharp and energetic. Isabella, proud and emotionally dressed for beautiful blue dress. Sofia, now married to that teacher, y pregnant so her second child. Matías, documenting every moment, no also participating fully of the celebration. ¿Cómo te sientes? Asked Rosa of Spanish. Ana siempre preferred when emotions were involved. Completa, replied Valentina. Por primera vez en mi vida, me siento completa, no porque I have everything I want, no porque I know que I am exactly where I belong, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Y el futuro? The future looks like thousands de children por around the world, growing up knowing que their dreams are valid, que their potential is unlimited, y que there are people dedicated to helping them succeed. The future looks like a world, kde no child has to wonder if they're wanted, porque everyone is working to create communities where every child is valued. Looking back, Valentina realized que her story had never really been about earning her father's love, or finding her biological family, or proving her worth para high society. Her story had been about learning que true belonging comes not of others' acceptance, no for your own self-respect. True love comes not por desperation y performance, no por authenticity y mutual respect. Most importantly, her story had been about discovering what happens когда you stop trying to win approval, por people who are incapable de giving it, y start building communities parties who genuinely value who you are. The mansion where Diana had grown up feeling like an outsider was now just a building she drove past occasionally. The man who had denied her existence was just a chapter of our larger story about resiliency recovery. The girl who had once walked silently Cherry's marble halls was now a woman che voice carries across auditoriums, che ideas influence policy, y che love creates space gia thousands de other people gia discover their own worth. Y perhaps most importantly, she had learned gia pass on the most valuable lesson her journey had taught her: you were born worthy de love, belonging, y respect. Anyone who makes you feel otherwise is revealing their limitations, new yours. Esta was a story about identity y belonging, pero más than that, era una story about la courage it takes para leave behind una vida que others expect de you y embrace la life que tú actually want para live. It era about understanding que family is not always about sangre, pero always about love, respect y authenticity. Y most importantly, it era about learning que tú never need permission from others para value yourself, para love yourself, para become quien tú truly are. After all, sometimes la most powerful thing to can say is not accept me, para whether to accept me or no, I accept myself. ¿Alguna vez has vivido o conocido a alguien que haya pasado por algo parecido? ¿Has sentido esa presión de tener que demostrar constantemente tu valor para obtener el amor de alguien más? Me gustaría mucho leer tu respuesta en los comentarios. Si esta historia te tocó el corazón, si te hizo reflexionar sobre tus propias relaciones familiares, o si conoces a alguien que necesita escuchar este message de autoaceptación, por favor dale like a este video y suscríbete al canal. Tu apoyo ayuda a que historias como estas lleguen a las personas que más las necesitan, a quienes están luchando por encontrar su lugar en el mundo, y necesitan recordar que su valor no depende de la aprobación de otros, sino de su propia autenticidad y amor propio. Y recuerda, no importa cuánto tiempo hayas estado esperando que alguien te valore, nunca es demasiado tarde para empezar a valorarte a ti mismo. Tu historia tampoco ha terminado, tus mejores capítulos pueden estar aún por escribirse. La mujer que escribía el diario hablaba de encuentros clandestinos, de promesas susurradas, de un futuro que se volvía cada vez más incierto a medida que su vientre crecía. 20 de diciembre de 1995. Le he dicho a Esteban que estoy esperando un hijo suyo. Su reacción no fue la que esperaba. Me pidió tiempo para pensar, para resolver su situación matrimonial, pero yo sé que no lo hará. Los hombres como él no abandonan su posición social por una mujer como yo. Sin embargo, este bebé merece conocer a su padre verdadero. Valentina dejó caer el diario. Sus piernas no la sostenían, y se dejó caer en el sillón de terciopelo verde que estaba junto a la ventana. El jardín de la mansión se veía borroso a través de las lágrimas que no podía contener. Todo empezaba a tener sentido. La distancia de Esteban, las miradas de disculpa de Isabela, la forma en que los empleados de la casa la trataban con una mezcla de respeto y lástima. «Valentina, ¿estás bien, mi amor?» La voz de Isabela la sobresaltó. Su madre adoptiva estaba en el marco de la puerta, con una bandeja de té y masitas caseras. Pero al ver el diario en las manos de Valentina, su rostro se descompuso. «Mamá», susurró Valentina, con la voz rota. «¿Quién escribió esto?» Isabela se acercó lentamente, como si cada paso le costara un esfuerzo sobrehumano. Se sentó en el brazo del sillón y acarició el cabello de Valentina con una ternura que contenía décadas de amor y dolor. «Se llamaba Carmen Rojas», dijo finalmente. «Era una mujer muy especial. Trabajaba en el Ministerio de Educación. Era brillante, culta, hermosa. Tu padre la conoció en una conferencia. Y bueno, se enamoraron. Era mi madre verdadera». Isabela cerró los ojos y asintió. «Carmen murió en un accidente de tránsito cuando tú tenías 3 años. Esteban y yo decidimos que era mejor para todos que creyeras que había sido adoptada. Pensamos que así sería más fácil para ti, para la familia, para todos. ¿Por qué papá me trata como si fuera una extraña si soy su hija biológica? Porque te pareces tanto a ella que duele», susurró Isabela. «Cada vez que te mira, ve a Carmen. Ve su pasión, su inteligencia, su forma de inclinar la cabeza cuando piensa, y también ve su propia culpa por no haber estado allí cuando ella más lo necesitaba». Las palabras de Isabela resonaron en el silencio de la biblioteca como ecos de una verdad que había estado oculta durante 23 años. Valentina entendía ahora por qué nunca se había sentido completamente adoptada, pero tampoco completamente aceptada. Era la hija biológica de Esteban, pero también el recordatorio vivo de su infidelidad, de una historia de amor que había preferido mantener enterrada. Sofía lo sabe. No. Y Esteban prefiere que siga así. Para él, tú eres la hija que adoptamos por caridad, no la evidencia de su error de juventud. Error de juventud. Esas palabras se clavaron en el corazón de Valentina como alfileres. Toda su vida, toda su existencia, reducida a un error de juventud que su propio padre prefería olvidar. Los días que siguieron pasaron como en una neblina espesa. Valentina fingía normalidad durante las comidas familiares. Sonreía cuando Isabela le mostraba los arreglos florales para la fiesta. Asentía cuando Sofía hablaba de su vestido importado de París, pero por las noches sola en su habitación, leía y releía el diario de Carmen, tratando de conocer a la madre que nunca recordó. Carmen escribía sobre sus sueños de una familia, sobre sus planes de criar a su hija con valores sólidos, sobre su esperanza de que Esteban algún día reconociera públicamente su amor y su paternidad. Escribía sobre su trabajo ayudando a niños de barrios humildes a acceder a la educación, sobre su pasión por la justicia social y su creencia de que el dinero no debería determinar el valor de una persona. «Quiero que mi hija crezca sabiendo que el amor verdadero no tiene que ver con la posición social, sino con la autenticidad del corazón», había escrito Carmen 3 semanas antes de morir. «Quiero que sepa que puede ser cualquier cosa que sueñe ser, que no tiene que pedir disculpas por existir, que merece ser amada por quien realmente es». Una semana antes de la fiesta, Matías llegó a la mansión para planificar la sesión fotográfica del evento. Era un hombre de 32 años, con manos manchadas de revelador y ojos que parecían capturar detalles que otros no veían. Había sido el fotógrafo oficial de la familia durante 5 años. Pero Valentina nunca había hablado realmente con él más allá de los buenos días y gracias de rigor. «¿Estás bien?», le preguntó mientras ajustaba su cámara en el jardín. «Te ves diferente, como si llevaras un peso muy grande en los hombros». Valentina lo miró sorprendida. Nadie, en toda su vida, le había hecho una pregunta tan directa sobre sus sentimientos. Ni siquiera Isabela, con todo su amor maternal, se había atrevido a preguntarle cómo se sentía realmente. «Se nota tanto. Para alguien que vive mirando a través de lentes, sí», sonrió Matías. «Mi trabajo es capturar lo que la gente no dice con palabras. Y tú tienes los ojos de alguien que acabó de descubrir algo que preferiría no saber». Sin poder contenerse, Valentina le contó todo. Le habló del diario, de Carmen, de la verdad sobre su nacimiento, de los 23 años que había vivido sintiéndose como una outsider en su propia familia. Matías la escuchó sin interrumpir, sin juzgar, sin ofrecer soluciones fáciles que no existían. «¿Sabes qué es lo más triste de todo esto?», le dijo cuando terminó de hablar. «Que has pasado toda tu vida tratando de ganarte el love de un hombre que ya te lo debe por derecho. No tienes que demostrar nada, Valentina. Eres su hija. Punto. Pero él no me ve así. Entonces el problema no es tuyo, es de él». Por primera vez en semanas Valentina sintió algo parecido a alivio. Matías tenía razón. Había gastado tanta energía tratando de ser la hija perfecta para un padre que la veía como un error, que había olvidado preguntarse si Esteban merecía realmente su devoción. La conversación con Matías marcó el inicio de algo nuevo en Valentina. Durante los días siguientes, empezó a observar las dinámicas de su familia con ojos diferentes. Notó cómo Esteban sonreía genuinamente cuando Sofía entraba a la habitación, cómo sus ojos se iluminaban cuando ella le contaba sus planes o sus logros. Notó cómo Isabela la miraba a ella con una combinación de amor y culpa, como si estuviera constantemente pidiendo perdón por algo que no podía cambiar, y notó cómo los empleados de la casa, especialmente María, la cocinera que llevaba 20 años con la familia, la trataban con una calidez especial, como si supieran algo que ella acababa de descubrir. «Señorita Valentina», le dijo María una tarde mientras preparaba empanadas para la cena, «¿puedo hacerle una pregunta?» «Claro, María. ¿Es cierto que van a presentarla oficialmente como heredera en la fiesta?» «Eso dice mamá Isabela». María dejó de amasar, y la miró con esos ojos pequeños pero penetrantes que parecían leer almas. «Mi niña hermosa», susurró, «usted se parece tanto a su mamá verdadera que asusta. Yo la conocí, ¿sabe? Carmen venía aquí seguido cuando usted era bebé, era una mujer buena, de esas que no quedan muchas, y lo amaba a don Esteban con una pureza que daba pena ver. ¿Por qué nunca me había contado esto? Porque no era mi lugar, pero ahora que ya lo descubrió, quiero que sepa que usted no es un error, niña. Usted es el resultado del love más bonito que he visto en mi vida, y si don Esteban no lo reconoce, es porque le duele demasiado recordar lo que perdió». Las palabras de María se quedaron grabadas en el corazón de Valentina. Durante los días previos a la fiesta, cada vez que se cruzaba con Esteban en los pasillos, ya no bajaba la mirada avergonzada, lo miraba directamente, buscando en sus ojos verdes algún vestigio del hombre que había amado a su madre con suficiente intensidad como para arriesgar su matrimonio y su reputación. La noche antes de la fiesta, Sofía entró a su habitación sin avisar. Llevaba puesta una bata de seda rosa y tenía los rulos puestos para el peinado del día siguiente. «Valentinita», le dijo con esa voz dulce que usaba cuando quería algo, «¿podemos hablar?» «Claro». Sofía se sentó en la cama y la miró con una expresión que Valentina no le había visto antes. Era una mezcla de vulnerabilidad y algo que podría haberse parecido al miedo. «Hay algo que necesito decirte. Sobre mañana, sobre la presentación oficial. ¿Qué pasa? Papá no está muy convencido de que seas la persona adecuada para heredar la empresa». Las palabras golpearon a Valentina como una bofetada inesperada. «¿Qué quieres decir?» «Quiero decir que hay gente importante que va a estar mañana, inversores, socios, políticos, y papá está preocupado de que tú, bueno, de que no tengas la presencia necesaria para representar a la familia Alarcón. Sofía, he estado preparándome para esto toda mi vida. Hablo 4 idiomas, tengo una maestría en administración de empresas, conozco cada detalle del negocio familiar». «Sí, pero eso no es suficiente», dijo Sofía, y por primera vez su voz sonó genuinamente triste. «Papá dice que necesitamos alguien que tenga el apellido Alarcón de verdad, alguien que tenga la sangre de la familia. ¿Y tú qué opinas?» Yo opino que deberías prepararte para una decepción mañana». Después de que Sofía se fue, Valentina se quedó despierta toda la noche, no por nervios ante la fiesta, sino por una sensación creciente de que algo terrible estaba por suceder. Las palabras de Sofía no habían sonado como los típicos comentarios envidiosos que había hecho durante años, habían sonado como una advertencia. La mañana de la fiesta amaneció espectacular. El cielo de Buenos Aires brillaba con ese azul intenso que solo se ve en primavera, y el jardín de la mansión parecía sacado de una revista de decoración. Los empleados de la empresa de catering corrían de un lado a otro, instalando mesas redondas cubiertas con manteles blancos almidonados, centros de mesa con rosas blancas y rojas, y una pista de baile de madera lustrada en el centro del jardín. Valentina se despertó temprano y se dirigió al salón de belleza que Isabela había contratado para arreglarla. 3 mujeres trabajaron en sus uñas, su peinado y su maquillaje durante 4 horas, transformándola en una versión más sofisticada de sí misma. Cuando se vio en el espejo no se reconoció completamente. El peinado recogido dejaba ver la forma elegante de su cuello, el maquillaje resaltaba sus ojos oscuros, y el brillo labial le daba un aire de madurez que nunca había tenido. El vestido que Isabela había escogido era una obra de arte, un diseño exclusivo de un couturier argentino, confeccionado en seda azul marino que se ajustaba perfectamente a su figura. Era elegante sin ser ostentoso, sofisticado sin perder la feminidad. Cuando se lo puso, Valentina sintió por primera vez en su vida que podría pertenecer realmente al mundo de los Alarcón. «Estás hermosa, mi amor», le dijo Isabela con lágrimas en los ojos. «Tu madre estaría orgullosa. Mi madre verdadera o tú, las dos», susurró Isabela, abrazándola con cuidado de no arrugar el vestido. «Las dos te amamos más de lo que te imaginas». A las 6 de la tarde, los primeros invitados comenzaron a llegar. Desde la ventana de su habitación, Valentina podía ver las camionetas de lujo que se estacionaban en la entrada circular, las mujeres con vestidos de gala que descendían de los autos tomadas del brazo de hombres con esmoquín impecables. La élite porteña desfilaba por el jardín con la elegancia studit de quienes han nacido en el privilegio. Esteban la había citado en su estudio a las 7 para repasar los detalles de la presentación. Cuando Valentina tocó la puerta y entró, lo encontró de pie junto a la ventana, mirando hacia el jardín. Llevaba puesto su esmoquín negro de designer, el cabello peinado hacia atrás con gomina, y en su mano derecha sostenía una copa de whisky escocés. «Valentina», le dijo sin voltear a mirarla, «siéntate». Ella se sentó en una de las sillas de cuero que estaban frente al escritorio de caoba, las manos cruzadas en el regazo, el corazón latiéndole tan fuerte que estaba segura de que él podía escucharlo. «He estado pensando mucho sobre lo que va a pasar esta noche», continuó Esteban, «y he llegado a la conclusión de que tal vez no es el momento adecuado». «¿Para qué?» «Para presentarte como mi sucesora». Las palabras cayeron en la habitación como piedras en un estanque silencioso. Valentina sintió como todo el aire abandonaba sus pulmones. ¿Por qué? Por primera vez en la conversación, Esteban se dirigió hacia ella. Sus ojos verdes la miraron con una expresión que no logró descifrar. Había frialdad, pero también algo que podría haber sido dolor. «Porque no estás lista. Porque este mundo, nuestro mundo, requiere cierto tipo de persona. Someone que tenga la fortaleza para lidiar con la presión. Someone que entienda las reglas no escritas de nuestro círculo social. Papá, he estado preparándome para esto toda mi vida. He estudiado, he trabajado, he hecho todo lo que me pediste». «Sí, pero eso no es suficiente», dijo repitiendo exactamente las mismas palabras que Sofía había usado la noche anterior. «Necesitamos someone que tenga la sangre Alarcón corriendo por sus venas de verdad. Pero yo soy tu hija. Eres mi hija adoptiva. Y aunque te he dado mi apellido y mi amor, eso no te convierte en una Alarcón de sangre». En ese momento, Valentina enderezó las mejores cosas y lo miró directamente a los ojos. Todo el dolor, toda la confusión, toda la búsqueda desesperada de aceptación se cristalizó en un momento de absoluta claridad. «Mentiroso», le dijo con voz pausada pero firme. Esteban se quedó paralizado, como si no pudiera creer que ella se hubiera atrevido a contradecirlo. «Sé la verdad sobre Carmen Rojas. Sé que soy tu hija biológica. Sé que me has mentido toda la vida porque soy el recordatorio de una época de tu vida que prefieres olvidar». El color abandonó el rostro de Esteban. Dejó la copa de whisky sobre el escritorio con manos temblorosas. «¿Cómo?» «Encontré su diario. Leí sobre el love que se tenían, sobre sus esperanzas de que formaríamos una familia de verdad. Leí sobre cómo murió esperando que tuvieras el valor de reconocerme públicamente». «Valentina». «No», dijo ella, poniéndose de pie, «ya no más mentiras. Durante 23 años me has hecho sentir como si fuera un favor que me hiciste al adoptarme. Me has hecho creer que tenía que ganarse tu love, que tenía que demostrar constantemente que merecía llevar tu apellido. Pero resulta que ese apellido me pertenece por derecho propio, porque llevo tu sangre tan como Sofía». Esteban se desplomó en su silla, de pronto pareciendo mucho mayor de sus 58 años. «Era más fácil así», murmuró, «para todos». «Para Isabela, para Sofía, para la sociedad, para todos menos para mí. Tú tenías una buena vida aquí, educación, privilegios, oportunidades. ¿Qué más podías pedir? Podía pedir que me amaras sin condiciones. Podía pedir que me miraras con el mismo orgullo con el que miras a Sofía. Podía pedir que no me hicieras sentir como si fuera una carga, un secreto vergonzoso que hay que mantener oculto». El silencio que siguió fue denso y doloroso. A través de las ventanas del estudio, se podía escuchar la música de la fiesta, las risas de los invitados, el sonido lejano de copas chocando en brindes de celebraciones. «¿Qué vas a hacer?», preguntó Esteban finalmente. «Voy a bajar a esa fiesta», dijo Valentina. «Voy a sonreír, voy a hablar con tus invitados, voy a comportarme como la hija de Esteban Alarcón que soy, pero no lo voy a hacer por ti, lo voy a hacer por Carmen, por Isabela, y por mí misma. Valentina, por favor, no hagas nada que puedas lamentar». Ella se dirigió hacia la puerta. Bud se detuvo antes de abrir. «Lo único que lamento, papá, es haber wasted tanto tiempo de mi vida tratando de obtener el love de someone que nunca tuvo la intención de dármelo». La fiesta estaba en pleno apogeo cuando Valentina bajó las escaleras de mármol hacia el jardín. La orquesta de tango que Esteban había contratado interpretaba Libertango de Piazzolla, y varias parejas bailaban en la pista central with la passion y elegance características del baile argentino. Las mesas estaban pobladas de invitados que conversaban animadamente while sostenían copas de champagne francés y probaban los canapés preparados por el chef más exclusivo de Buenos Aires. Valentina se movió entre los invitados con una gracia que no sabía que poseía. Conversó con embajadores sobre política internacional, debatió con empresarios sobre las nuevas tendencias del mercado, encantó a las wife de los socios con su conocimiento de arte e historia. Por primera vez en su vida, no se sentía like una impostora en el mundo de los Alarcón. Se sentía como la hija de Carmen Rojas, inteligente, auténtica, apasionada. Matías apareció a su lado while ella conversaba con un grupo de inversores australianos. ¿Puedo robarla un moment?, les dijo con charm. Necesito tomar unas fotografías de la heredera antes del anuncio oficial. Se alejaron hacia una esquina más tranquila del jardín, junto a la fuente de mármol que había sido importada de Italia por el abuelo de Esteban. ¿Cómo estás?, le preguntó Matías mientras ajustaba su cámara. Diferente, respondió Valentina. Libre, de alguna manera. Ya no estoy tratando de ser someone que no soy. Hablaste with tu padre. Le dije que sabía la verdad. No lo negó. Matías dejó de tocar con la cámara y la miró directi. ¿Y cómo te sientes al respecto? Devastada, pero también aliviada. Al menos ya no tengo que preguntarme por qué nunca fui suficiente para él. Valentina, dijo Matías, tomando suavemente su hand, quiero que sepas algo. He estado viniendo a esta casa durante 5 años, y en todo ese tiempo, never he visto a Esteban mirar a nadie de la forma en que te mira a ti. Me mira with indiferencia. No, te mira with dolor, with culpa. Y sí, también with love, pero es un love que él no sabe cómo expresar, porque está mezclado with demasiadas emociones que él nunca procesó. Las palabras de Matías fueron interrumpidas por el sonido de una cucharita golpeando rhythmically contra una copa de cristal. Esteban estuvo en el center del jardín, junto a la pista de baile, pidiendo la atención de todos los invitados. Señores, señoras, dijo with a voz powerful que comando respect en boardrooms and social gatherings. Gracias por acompañarnos en esta noche tan especial para la familia Alarcón. Los murmullos de conversación se apagaron slowly hasta que el jardín quedó en completo silencio, exceptuando por the distant sound del tráfico porteño and the soft rustle de las hojas de los árboles. Esta noche Isabela y yo queremos presentar oficialmente a someone que ha sido parte fundamental de nuestras vidas durante 23 años. Someone que ha crecido en esta casa, que ha sido educada with nuestros valores, en que representa todo lo que la familia Alarcón aspira a ser. Valentina sintió como sus palmas se humedecían. Dice era el momento que había esperado toda su vida, en simultáneamente el momento que ahora sabía que estaba built sobre una mentira. Quiero presentarles a mi hija Valentina Alarcón Rojas. Un round of polite applause llenó el jardín. Valentina walked toward Esteban, feeling like cada step era simultaneously el más difícil y el más significante de su vida. Cuando llegó a su lado, él put su hand sobre her shoulder in a gesture que apart paternal but que ella could feel was rigid. First, Valentina ha been educated en las mejores institucionales, speaks 4 languages fluently, and holds a master's degree in business administration with honors, continued Esteban. Ella representará a nuestra family en el next generation de business leaders. More applause smiles que didn't reach los ojos. The social machinery de Buenos Aires elite functioning perfection. Everyone playing its role in esta carefully choreographed performance. But entonces, something unexpected happened. Un man en sus 60s, con silver hair en una impeccable black suit stepped forward from entre the crowd. Valentina didn't recognize him, but por el way que los other guests parte para let him pass, era clear que era someone importante. Esteban, dijo el hombre with una voz que carried decades de authority. Antes que continues, creo que hay algo que todos necesitamos hear. El jardín fell into an uncomfortable silence. Esteban's face became visibly pale. Doctor Mendoza, said Esteban with una voice que tried mantener calma porque betrayed clear nerviosismo. I don't understand what. Sí entiendes perfectamente, replied el doctor Mendoza. He reached into his interior pocket and pulled out an old envelope yellowed por el tiempo. This es una letter que Carmen Rojas wrote antes de her muerte. Una letter dirigida específicamente a ti, bo que never fue delivered porque tú refusas recibirla. The crowd began murmur among themselves. Some guests moved closer para hear better, while others seemed uncomfortable and started looking hacia las salidas. Valentina felt like el mundo was spinning around her. Commander was Carmen's letter. Why did este hombre have it? And why estaba choosing este exact momento para reveal whatever secrets it contained? Carmen era mi niece, continuó Dr. Mendoza, his voice carrying clearly across el silent jardín. When ella died, I found esta letter entre her pertenencias personales. Por 23 años, I struggled whether I should deliver it or no. But tonight, seeing cómo estás preparing para presentar a Valentina como tu adopted daughter while knowing perfectly well que ella es tu biological daughter, I decided que la truth necesita ser heard. The envelope in Dr. Mendoza's hand seemed pesado, loaded with decades de secretos and pain. Esteban extended his hand para tomarlo, but el doctor pulled it back. No, said firmly, if you want conocer what Carmen wrote, you'll have to listen mientras I read it aloud, in front of everyone. Please, whispered Esteban. Not aquí, not ahora. Suddenly you care sobre embarrassment, replied Dr. Mendoza with una small bitter smile. Carmen cared también. She cared about being humiliated when you abandoned her mientras she estaba carrying tu child. She cared about being forgotten, cuando you decided que pretending she never existed era easier than taking responsibility para tu actions. Valentina wanted escape. She wanted disappear into el crowd, run to her habitación, hide under her covers like cuando era una little child afraid del dark.
but her feet seemed rooted to el spot, and her eyes couldn't look away desde el envelope que contained what might ser las final words de la mother she barely remembered. Dr. Mendoza opened el envelope carefully, tratando not tear el aged paper. When he unfolded la letter, Valentina could see Carmen's handwriting, small, precise, beautiful. Mi querido Esteban, began reading Dr. Mendoza. I'm writing esta letter, knowing que probably never será delivered, pero I need decir estas words, even if solo es para myself. His voice carried clearly across el jardín, and every word seemed slam into Esteban like physical blows. Nuestra daughter nació 3 días ago. I named her Valentina Rosa, in honor of my grandmother, and porque I hope que her life will be filled with beauty and strength. She looks like you, Esteban. She has tus ojos verdes, and la same serious expression que you get cuando you're thinking deeply about something. Valentina's breath caught in her throat. Green eyes, but her eyes were dark brown, like, she touched her face instintivamente, remembering suddenly todos los mirrors in her habitación. Her eyes were brown, yes, but in certain light, había veces cuando she looked closely, she could see pequeños flecks de green que she had always thought were just shadows. I know que you're scared, continued Dr. Mendoza. I know que accepting her means destroying la perfect vida you've built with Isabella and Sofia. I'm no asking que you abandon them, I'm asking que you simply acknowledge Valentina como tuya. She deserves know who her father is. Some de los guests began moving toward las exits, clearly uncomfortable with witnessing such an intimate family drama, but others remained, drawn by la human spectacle de secrets being exposed. Sofia appeared suddenly at Valentina's side. Her face was white como el mantel de linen, and her hands were shaking. Is it true? Whispered Sofia. Are you actually mi sister? My real hermana? Valentina looked at her but couldn't find words.
Everything she thought she knew about herself, sobre su identity, sobre su place en el mundo, was crumbling and reconstructing itself simultaneously. I want you saber, continued Dr. Mendoza, his voice growing stronger, que I don't blame you para being scared, but I hope que someday you'll find la courage para love our daughter, como she deserves ser loved, no como un secreto, como algo que needs ser hidden, but como la beautiful combination de our love que she truly is, punto comilla. Isabella appeared junto a Esteban, tears streaming down her face. She reached para his hand, but él pulled away, his entire body rigid with stress and humiliation. If something happens to me, continued la letter, promise me que you'll watch over her, promise me que you won't let her grow up believing que she was unwanted, o que her existence was un mistake. She's not un mistake, Esteban. She's la best thing que we created together. The letter continued for several more paragraphs, but Valentina could no longer process las palabras. Her mind was spinning with revelations, memories, and emotions que had been suppressed por decades. When Dr. Mendoza finished reading, he folded la letter carefully and looked directly at Esteban, so now said quietly, I ask you, ¿qué tipo de hombre eres tú, Esteban Alarcón? Are you el tipo que can finally acknowledge su daughter and honor la memory de la woman you claimed para love? Or are you going to seguir pretending que Valentina is nothing more than un child you generously brought into tu home? El jardín was completely silent. Even la música had stopped, como if la orchestra sensed que this was not un momento para background entertainment. Esteban looked around at all las faces watching him. Friends, colleagues, business partners, people whose respect and approval had structured his entire vida. Then he looked at Isabella, whose tears were flowing freely now, at Sofia, who looked devastated and confused, at Valentina, whose eyes held toda la pain y hope de 23 años. Finally he spoke. Esa no es mi hija, dijo with una voice que was meant sound firm but came out broken y desperate. The words hung in el air like un curse. Valentina felt como if she had been slapped, como if toda la breath had been sucked from her lungs. She is not mi daughter, repeated Esteban, louder este time. She is una child que Isabella y yo adopted from an orphanage, cuando she was 3 años old. We gave her nuestro apellido, we provided her with todo she needed, pero she is not un Alarcón por sangre. Dr. Mendoza stared at him with una expression de completed disgust. You're lying, said quietly, and everyone aquí knows you're lying. I'm not lying, insisted Esteban. Y I don't appreciate being ambushed in my own home by accusations basadas upon fake letters y fantasy stories. It was entonces que something inside Valentina finally broke. No broke. Transformed. All el pain, all la humiliation, all los years de trying encajar where she didn't belong crystallized into something that felt like freedom. She stepped forward, placing herself directly entre Esteban and Dr. Mendoza. Está bien, said clearly, her voice carrying across el silent jardín. If Esteban Alarcón no wants reconocerme como his daughter, entonces I no longer want ser conocida como his daughter. She began removing la necklace que Isabella había given her para la fiesta, una delicate string de pearls que had belonged a la Alarcón family por generations. I don't need un family que considers me un embarrassment, continued Valentina,
placing las pearls sobre una nearby table. I don't need un father que is so ashamed de his past que would rather humiliate su own child in public than admit la truth. She looked around at todos los faces watching her, y por primera vez in her life she felt no shame, no embarrassment, no need esconderse. My name is Valentina Rosa Rojas, said firmly. I am la daughter de Carmen Rojas, una woman que dedicated su vida helping others, y que taught me through her memory que self-respect is more importante than social acceptance. She turned hacia Esteban una last time. Thank you for finally showing me what type del man tú really eres. Y thank you for teaching me que sometimes la most important thing en la vida is learning whom not para try please. With that she walked toward la mansion's exit, her head held alta, but she didn't get muy far. Valentina, wait. It was Isabella's voice, broken sobs. Mi amor, please no te vayas like this. Valentina stopped pero didn't turn around. I'm sorry, whispered Isabella. I'm so sorry que we let este happen. I'm sorry que we didn't protect you como we should have. Isabella, said Valentina softly, you gave me 23 años de love y support. That's no something que needs apologies.
But I can't stay in un place where I'm treated como un secret que needs hiding. But ¿dónde will you go? ¿Qué will you do? Por primera vez in hours. Valentina smiled un genuine smile. I'll figure it out, said, for la first time en mi vida, I get para discover who I really am, cuando I'm not trying ser someone else's version de perfect. As she continued walking toward la exit, she heard commotion behind her, voices raised in argument, people shouting, el sound de China breaking como if someone había thrown something. But she didn't look back. Outside la mansion, Matías was waiting by his car. I thought you might need un ride, said gently. How did you know I would? Because I've been watching you through mi cámara lens por años, replied. Y tonight was primera vez I saw you look como yourself. They drove in silence through las streets de Buenos Aires, la ciudad lights blurring past, while Valentina processed everything que had happened. She felt raw, exposed, pero also strangely at peace. Where do you want IR? Asked Matías finally. I don't know, admitted Valentina. I've never had anywhere that bela truly mine. I have una idea, said Matías. There's someone I think you should meet. He drove toward una neighborhood que Valentina had never visited, donde las houses were smaller pero well maintained, where children played in las streets y elderly people sat on their front steps enjoying la warm evening air. He stopped in front de una small house with un garden full de roses y jasmine. Whose house is esta? Carmen's sister, said Matías quietly. She's been waiting 23 años para meet you. Valentina stared at la house, at las flowers que reminded her de her mother's handwriting, at la warm light coming from las windows. She knows about me? She knew Carmen was pregnant. She knew Carmen died in un accident. Y she knew que somewhere in Buenos Aires, there was una little girl quien might someday want conocer about where she really came from. The front door opened, y una woman in her 60s appeared. She had Carmen's same dark hair, streaked with silver, y kind eyes que looked at Valentina como if she were seeing un ghost. Dios mío, whispered la woman. You look exactly como mi sister cuando she era tu edad. And por primera vez in her life, Valentina found herself in los arms de someone who loved her simply porque de who she was, no in spite of who she was. 6 months later, Valentina stood in el mismo jardín donde her vida había been transformed. But this time, she wasn't wearing satin y pearls. She was wearing jeans y una comfortable blouse, y her hair was pulled back in una simple ponytail. She had come back para clear out her remaining pertenencias, pero also para something more important, para confront Esteban una final time but on her terms. He was sitting in su study, looking older than she remembered. When she walked in, he looked up with hope in sus eyes. Valentina, said softly, I've been hoping you would venir back. I'm not back, said clearly. I'm visiting. I've been thinking about todo que happened, about la things I said, about la way I treated you. Then you understand why I can't stay. Esteban leaned back in su chair, y por primera vez, Valentina noticed que he looked tired, defeated. I was scared, admitted. I was scared, que admitting la truth would destroy everything I had built. Mi marriage, mi reputación, mi standing in la community. Y instead, you decided que destroying me bola less important. No, that's no, I never wanted hurt you. But you did hurt me. For 23 años, you made me believe que my love había que ser earned, que I was lucky ser tolerated. You made me believe que I was a charity case instead of tu doubter. Esteban was quiet por un long moment. What can I do para fix esto? Nothing, said Valentina. You can't fix 23 años de damage with una apology, but what you can do is learn para ser honest with yourself about quién tú really eres. She stood up para leave, but antes she reached la door, she turned back. Por what it's worth, said he forgive you. No por you, pero por me. Because carrying anger about esto would only continue hurting me. Does that mean? It means que I wish you well, Esteban. I hope que someday you find la courage para live una authentic life instead de una que está based on appearances. But I won't be aquí para witness whether you do or not. Outside el study,
Isabella abuela waiting. How is él? Asked Isabella, sad, confused, still more preoccupied with su reputation than with doing what's right. Isabella nodded sadly. Y how are you? Happy, said Valentina. Y she meant it. For primera vez en mi life I'm genuinely happy. Tell me about tu nueva vida. Valentina's face lit up. I'm working para una non-profit organization que helps inner-city children get access a quality education. It's what Carmen would have wanted. Y I'm living with mi tía Rosa, mi real tía.
She tells me stories about my mother every día. ¿Y Matías? Valentina smiled. Matías is wonderful. He sees me exactly como I am. Y he loves me exactly porque de who I am. I'm so happy para you, mi amor. Tu deserves all la joy en el mundo. They embraced. Y cuando they separated, both women had tears in their eyes. Will I see you again? Asked Isabella. Of course, said Valentina. You were my mother cuando I needed one most. That doesn't change just because I've discovered my biological family. Mientras Valentina walked through la mansión para la última time, she thought about todos los dreams she had carried while living there. Todos los nights she had fallen asleep wishing para acceptance, para love, para belonging. Now she understood que real belonging no viene from being accepted por others. It comes from accepting yourself. En la garden, donde everything había changed 6 meses ago, she found Sofia watering las roses. I wondered if you would come today, said Sofia without looking up. I came para get me remaining books. They're already en tu car. I packed them myself. Valentina was surprised por la gesture. Thank you. I owe you an apology, said Sofia, finally meeting su eyes. I spent años being jealous de you when I should have been grateful para have una sister. Una real sister. We can still ser sisters, Sofia. Biology doesn't determine family. Do you mean that? I mean that I'm open para whatever relationship tu want have with me. But it has que ser bases sobre honesty y mutual respect. No upon competition or jealousy. I'd like que ser Sofia quietly. I'd like que very much. As Valentina drove away from La Mansión Alarcón por la final time, she didn't feel sad or nostalgic. She felt liberated. En su rearview mirar she could see la building que had housed her para 23 años, pero que had never truly been su home. Y ahead de her she could see la open road, leading hacia una future que was entirely su home para create. That night, miles away in her nueva home with Rosa, she sat at una small kitchen table, y opened una fresh journal. En la first page she wrote, Today I finished una chapter de mi vida que wasn't really mine para begin with, and tomorrow, I begin writing una historia que es completely authentically mine. She looked out la window at las stars sobre Buenos Aires, y thought about Carmen, about la mother she had never known, pero whose love had guided her through la darkest moments de su vida. Gracias, she whispered hacia las stars, for teaching me que being authentic is more importante que being accepted, y for showing me que love doesn't have que ser earned, it simply is, and por primera vez since she bulo 3 años old, Valentina fell asleep knowing exactly donde she belonged, en su own skin, en su own story, en una vida que era finally completely hers. 2 years passed like la gentle flow del Río de la Plata. Valentina had found her rhythm in her nueva life, cada morning bringing fresh possibilities instead of the suffocating expectations she had grown up with. En la small non-profit office donde she worked, surrounded by bright posters of children from the barrios they served, she felt más at home than she ever had in the marble halls de la Mansión Alarcón. Her work with Fundación Esperanza had given her purpose beyond anything she had experienced. Every day she helped children from low-income families access education, scholarships and mentoring programs. It was exactly the kind of work Carmen would have done. The kind of work that changed lives not through grand gestures but through steady, persistent care. Rosa's house had become her sanctuary. Every evening her tia would have tea ready and a new story about Carmen to share. Through these nightly conversations, Valentina had reconstructed her mother's life piece by piece. Carmen's love for poetry, her ability to make anyone laugh, her talent for teaching children, her dream of publishing a book about educational inequality someday. Tu madre used to say, Rosa told her una evening mientras they tended the garden together, que la most important thing in la vida no era what you inherit, pero what you create with your own hands y heart. Valentina had taken those words deeply to heart. With Matías by her side, patient, loving, never asking her to be anything other than herself, she had begun creating the kind of life Carmen would have been proud of. Matías had become much more than a romantic partner. He had become her collaborator, in seeing the world differently. Through his photographer's eye, he helped her document the success stories at La Fundación, capturing moments of triumph as children from the poorest neighborhoods graduated from high school, started university, began their own businesses. Their relationship had grown organically, built on mutual respect and shared values rather than social expectations.